So, hi, Constantina.
Hello, Shiv.
I'm really interested in today's topic.
Yes, it's lovely to have podcasts when we have guests to share their insights and knowledge with us. And today's topic is all about the latest UK labour market as of summer 2025. So it will be super exciting. Shall we start?
Definitely. So I'm really delighted to have Charlie Ball on because he's a labour market expert and he's somebody that careers consultants up and down the UK turn to get, sort of the latest information. Yes, everything comes with a caveat, and I'm sure, Charlie, you're going to express the caveats as well.
Oh, in enormous detail, yes.
This is the man we go to get the data, so it's really good to have him here so that we can sort of ask him questions and hopefully help you to see what you can do to interrogate the data.
So, Charlie, welcome to the Careers Chat podcast. And as a starter, can you give us one sentence overview of the graduate labour market in the UK as of July 2025?
Yes, it's stuck. And that's the phrase that we're using at the moment. It comes from the Recruitment and Employment Confederation, who described the labour market as stuck. I think that's the very best phrase to use it. It is not doing very much at the moment. It is neither good nor bad. It's been neither good nor bad for a little while now, and it's stuck in that phase.
And how long do you think that's going to continue?
Well, it's been stuck for about 8 or 9 months, and it's just kind of bimbling along. For international students, that's a British phrase. No, it's kind of just been chugging along in a relatively subdued way. And to be honest, next few months, it'll need something one way or the other, either an economic boost or an economic kicking for it to get out of this kind of rather subdued pattern, neither of which necessarily coming. And the thing about the UK graduate labour market is, particularly the areas where it's especially stuck right now, is the UK government does have power to change that quite substantially if they, for example, we're running a bit short of healthcare workers. So if in the budget in October, they announced a big recruit of healthcare workers, that would make a difference. At the same time, we are also vulnerable to international events. So if our friend in the White House has some kind of fancy tomorrow morning and slaps a bunch of tariffs on us, then that will also have an effect, but obviously in the downward direction. So because of that level of uncertainty and because things are quite stagnant right now, businesses are slightly reluctant to invest, and included in investment is recruitment. So everything is kind of just waiting for something to happen, either good or bad, so that we kind of get a bit more certainty. There you go. That was one sentence because I didn't put any punctuation in, but it was quite a long one.
It is a good sentence, and it made us very thoughtful and reflective. Think, okay, what next? So while we are waiting for the economy to unstuck and get some movement in the labor market, what can an international graduate, recent international graduate, do to get a step ahead?
Well, I mean, there are a bunch of things going on in recruitment right now. The jobs market is stuck, but there are lots of jobs out there. And one thing to bear in mind about the UK graduate labour market is it expands every year. Every year, more people. We have more people at the end of the year in graduate jobs than we did at the beginning. That even happened during COVID. So a little thing like a somewhat stagnant and anemic economy right now is not going to change that. So there are a lot of jobs available. They are largely located in the big cities, and that's a double-edged sword. First, a lot of international graduates graduate towards London anyway because they know it, they're well known, and it is about a quarter to a third of all graduate jobs in the UK. They're probably close to a quarter in total at starting starting jobs. Probably about 20 to 30% of starting jobs are in London. But of course, it costs an absolute fortune to live there. So what you might think about doing is looking at one of the other big cities that has a good, strong graduate labour market. So that will be cities like Birmingham, Leeds, Manchester, Glasgow, Edinburgh. Those are the ones with the very strongest labour markets. Or the next tier down, which have strong labour markets, but not necessarily in all areas. So that will be places like Cardiff, Bristol, Sheffield, Newcastle, Nottingham, Liverpool, Southampton, places like that. So Belfast, actually. Belfast is a special case. We'll talk about Belfast if you really want to talk about IT. But I appreciate,
Yes, please.
Yes.
yeah. So
Yeah.
if you're a techie graduate, Belfast is the second most likely city in the UK for a tech person to start their career after London. Huge IT labour market, and it's also quite cross-border because there's a certain amount of influence from the labour market in Dublin. Now, I'm not an expert as such on the Irish graduate labour market, but because of the way those two markets combine across, there's very little border really in graduate labour market terms. So the whole of the island of Ireland, if you like, acts as one big graduate labour market with two big centres in Dublin and Belfast, and one smaller one in Cork. And so that really strong tech labour market in Belfast. And if you go to Belfast at the moment, you'll see it's really nice and shiny, lots of buildings going up, very tech oriented. So that's also a very good place to take a look at. And because of the nature of the labour market there in an island, it's also quite internationally focused. So there's lots of big American corporations, for example, with significant presences in Belfast. So it's well worth thinking about. It's also a bit cheaper to live in. This was your message from the Belfast Tourist Board, which I am just to be clear on, not part of. So there is that. The other thing to bear in mind, and we'll address this big elephant in the room straight away. We'll talk about AI straight away. So AI has not yet had a massive impact on the jobs that people do in the UK. You'll see a lot of hype. You'll see a lot of, oh, this is going to happen, but these things have been going to happen for several years now, and are always just about to happen, never actually happen. So don't be too taken in by a lot of the hype that is being put out by, frankly, the tech bros about how brilliant their technology is. A lot of them actually, they're talking what they think in good faith, but very few of them actually know very much about the labour market.
Okay, that's it. That's an interesting point.
One point that is hugely important is AI has seriously affected actual recruitment because so many people use it. So the Institute of Student Employers found last year that essentially, to all intents and purposes, pretty much everybody was using it to make their job applications. And that has two effects. So AI is better at writing job applications and putting in applications than the average applicant who hasn't trained or taken any special courses or whatever in doing that. So if you've not applied for jobs before, you're not familiar with doing it, it will do a better job than you do. And so loads and loads of people use it. And so that had two effects on the recruitment market last year. Firstly, recruiters got a lot more, and we're talking orders of magnitude more applicants for their jobs, because instead of it taking an hour to go through all the questions and stuff, and a large language model can do it like that literally in a touch of a button. It can do it at scale. It can do it multiple times. So that removes one barrier. The second is it does it better. So employers were getting suddenly, where they might get 10,000 applicants for a job, they were getting hundreds of thousands of applicants, all of a higher quality and all functionally identical. And so absolutely useless in terms of actually trying to tell the difference between them. So my advice for international students is don't do that. What you should do instead is one of two things. First is learn to write a really good CV. Go to your careers advisors, go to your careers services, and learn to write a really good CV, covering letter, application without AI at all. You will stand out far more than you would have done 2 years ago. Second thing is you can do is learn to use AI to write a CV or covering letter that doesn't make it look like you've used AI, which is also a skill. So if you can do that, you will tick off two boxes. Firstly, your application will look natural. And the crucial thing to do is the application has got to look like it's authentically come from you and contains a bit of you in it. And also you can demonstrate to the employer, preferably after they've offered you the job, that in fact you did use AI. And to use anecdote here, actually, one of our new analysts actually did that. And we interviewed her. So, and this is the third thing, actually, you still have to be able to do interviews. And one of the other things that the Institute of Student Employers has found as a consequence of this AI, they're getting a lot more candidates who are completely unprepared and unable to do interviews. And interviews are now the stage at which employers are basically finding out the people who have bypassed normal systems. And so they are actually being quite a lot more stringent about interviewing. But our candidate, she'd done the prep. She wrote her application, it turned out, using AI, but we couldn't tell because she'd done it well. She was great at interview. And when we said, oh, you got the job, and also, part of the reason was you didn't appear to use AI, which point she said, yeah, I did. And essentially we applauded, because those are the skills that we and businesses are looking for. If you can do that in a natural way, so it doesn't look like you've done it, and it can genuinely enhance your application, and you can then do the face-to-face stuff.
Yeah.
Then, my friend, you are an employee. Everybody is going to be after.
You see, the questions we've had raised previously is around the use of paid for AI versus free AI, and how that is actually holding some groups back, and others who can afford to pay for it just sail through.
If you're using paid AI and then have not prepared for the interview, and you can't do the interview, you're still going to fail. If you're using paid AI to bypass that process and get to the interview and then ace the interview, then actually that's what the application is for, basically. It is to get to the interview stage, and then the interview stage is where the decisions are made. So actually that's not so bad. But really, if you're going to use AI at all, where your skill has to be is in the prompt. It's in prompt writing, prompt engineering, and then subsequent curating of content.
Yeah.
So you cannot just pay for something, get it to churn the stuff out, and then just send that off, because you will fail.
So it is about being the all-round package, isn't it? It's about planning out.
It is about being the all-round package. And yeah, you might get slightly better results, slightly less curation, but you're still going to have to curate it well. You're still going to have those skills to curate that information well after you've completed. And you can't pay for that.
Yeah, and I can see in the autumn term there's going to be a lot of career services up and down the UK going, how to ace an interview when you've used AI in your application.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. To my mind, and actually there's nothing really wrong with that, because the interview stage is the point at which you show face to face that you've done the work and you've done the homework and that you're ready and that you've approached it with the right level of professionalism. So yeah, if you research the business thoroughly and know what it does and have all the questions ready and are ready to do a good interview, but you've done AI to streamline the process by which you get there, businesses are not going to mind that, because you've still done the work, and you've used AI to get to that point, because the crunch point is the interview.
And it is the creation of the prompts as well, and that is a skill in itself.
That's right. I mean, anybody, it is a literal now no skill job to get AI to generate an application for you. It is a no skill job. It is absolutely and completely unrelated to your ability to do the task, and businesses know it. So, if you bypass that, you have no business bypassing that, getting to interview and then complaining that you couldn't do the interview. I'm sorry, you didn't do the work. That's just the up and down of it. And that's the way business is approaching. But I think the other thing to bear in mind is, don't overestimate how much business is using AI right now. They are really not using it in general in a systemic way, except in a few sectors, and even then it's often quite performative. Most business barely use AI much of the time, because it doesn't really impact on what they're doing, or they're finding their way to how it's used. So the other side of the coin is, if your application is, I'm a whiz with AI, employ me, good luck with that, because actually you'll need to be a whiz at the stuff that the business actually does first.
Yeah, and it's all about, focusing in on how I'm a fit for you, and if you don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, your ability to write a prompt is a nice add-on to that, rather than the center of the whole work. And that's the case across much of business still. As I said, stories of widespread AI adoption and businesses using AI to do huge amounts of things are largely, not entirely, but largely hype.
Before we get sucked down an AI black hole.
We don't want it to all be all about AI, because other people are better at that than me. I could talk about the labour market.
Yes.
Yes,
How
yeah.
well we do
Let's go
that.
back to the labour market. And what do you think international students can do for themselves in sort of talking about their expertise, previous work experience in their home countries, the qualifications from the UK and at home, and the skills that they've developed, including their intercultural awareness? What do you think they should be doing, and how should they do it?
Your international student nature is your point of difference and your unique selling point. So whilst you don't want to go on about it all the time, it does mean you bring things to the table that a home student would not bring. So at Roots, the first thing you have that a home student hasn't done is you've moved country to study, and that takes a certain kind of person to do. That takes a certain kind of quite proactive, quite brave person to do. So that's the first thing to point out. You have gone outside your normal comfort zone in order to try to improve yourself. And that is the point that you want to make. And building on that, and showing where and how you have gone above and beyond what is ordinarily the case in order to improve, in order to learn, in order to develop, is going to be a really useful focus. What you don't need to try to do, and what you shouldn't try to do as an international student, is essentially compete with home students on their own turf. Emphasising how much you know about the UK and stuff is perhaps not ideal, particularly if you're doing a client-facing role. It is going to be very helpful to have really good, clear English.
Can I just ask here something, Charlie? Both Siobhan and I work with many international students, and some of the rejections they receive is due to lack of UK-based experience. I appreciate everything you say about transferable skills, about coming to the UK, challenging yourself, and so on. But how do they actually tackle this specific issue?
That's right. But then, fundamentally, most international students will have the same amount of UK work experience as home students, i.e., none.
The graduate level students, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, undergraduate level students. So a lot of them will be in that position. So what you need to do is be aware that that might be a point of rejection, and point out that actually, work is, you can demonstrate that you can do a job. You demonstrated if you've worked outside the UK, point out that not only can you do a job, but you can do a job in a set of different environments, and you're adaptable, and you have the ability to self-start in a variety of locations. And sometimes, there are lack of UK work experience can be a barrier, but if you're aware that it might become one, point out, if you're sitting in an office doing tech support or IT work, how different is the experience in Hyderabad than it is in London?
Yeah. Do you feel that's an excuse that employers sometimes use because they either don't want to sponsor?
Yes, absolutely. It is of a piece of the "you're too experienced" excuse. Nobody genuinely turns someone down because they're too skilled for the job. What they actually mean is, I don't think you're going to stay in this job because you're going to find it dull.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or even in some occasions, you're more qualified than me, and that makes me uncomfortable.
What do you think about things like student society activity, volunteering, in sort of virtual internships?
Always really useful. Always really useful, because and particularly for those people who have experience outside the UK but not so much in the UK, this shows that actually, you are able and willing and interested in taking part, if you like, and being part of. You can relate, and you can work with home students and people from the UK. It's not alien to you. You're not going to be taken aback by our weird British cultural ways. And actually, to be fair, we sometimes, particularly, those of us who are native to the UK, can sometimes be a little bit blind to how weird our country is sometimes. and how odd things are.
Well, as an Irish person with an Irish passport, I'm not going to get drawn into that
Well,
conversation, Carly.
I'm from the north of England, and living in London, my God, They're weird down there. They don't talk to each other.
They don't talk. No.
And their pies are all wrong, and their beers are too expensive, and all of this kind of thing. So
We've moved into pie chat now.
but joking aside,
Yeah.
well, I mean, it was inevitable. I am from Wigan, and if you don't, if you're an international student and are not aware of what Wigan is a town, but also a cultural experience based around the worship of pies, and yeah, we're quite famous far and wide for being unusually obsessed with pies. So pies will always enter
Thank
the
you,
chat.
Wigan Tourist Board.
which I am not part of. But yeah, I mean, and so those societies and they serve dual purpose. For home students, we always emphasize that because that shows that you bring something else to the table other than your subject knowledge. For international students, they do that plus demonstrate an ability to integrate.
And I think that also studying in a second or sometimes a third language, it's just incredible.
Yeah, and it's enormously impressive. And we have to be candid. And as you say, since we've broached that subject, that can be quite intimidating for some people.
Because there is a language shortage as well as other skill shortages.
But there is. Although we must be really, really careful in the UK, because although we have a shortage of people who can speak other languages, it's actually quite rare for the sole point of somebody being appointed that the fact that they can speak another language.
Yeah.
It's a nice to
But
have.
it's not in itself, yeah.
Maybe that's part of the problem we have in the UK, and we see other languages as a nice to have rather than necessity. But in general, your selling point is not going to be that I can speak Hindi.
Yeah.
I can speak Arabic. It is going to be all the stuff you can do, plus you can do that.
Yeah.
Charlie, you work with employers, you hear what they say. So what are the main frustrations they face in terms of finding and keeping the international talent?
Visas. So that's the first thing. Obviously, the visa system is quite restrictive because bear in mind, in a lot of areas, we do not have enough workers. So in healthcare, in social care, in large parts of tech, in engineering, oh my God, in engineering, we don't have enough people in the UK to do the jobs that we need them to do. So we need international workers, and they are particularly employers that have a culture of employing them. They're highly prized, and it can be a little bit too difficult to hold and maintain them. Cost of living is an issue. You know, the places where we have strong graduate labour market, particularly in London, are very, very expensive to live in, which is an increasing problem for home and international students alike. And in general, actually, employers are a lot more concerned about the retention of skilled employees than I think people outside the industry really understand. In general, it is very much one of their top three concerns, and often for many businesses, particularly in areas where there's a lot of talent poaching. So, for example, engineering or parts of the finance industry, it's basically their actual number one concern. In general, if you're an employer and you've recruited someone from overseas, that's because they are very good and or fill crucial skills and occupational shortages. And so therefore, really quite mindful about the need to recruit, to retain them, but also international students and international graduates in a way that students from the UK who've never left the UK don't have a wider vista to choose from. Employers are always mindful that somebody who has moved continents to come to work for you might also move continents to go for a more appealing role. That doesn't mean they'll write them off. It means they'll worry about that more.
I think tackling that at interview is an important thing then.
Yeah, but at the same time, you've got to be realistic. If an absolute whiz kid comes with several languages and a load of incredibly valuable skills, and then says, "Oh yeah, and I will be 100% loyal to this job forever," employers simply won't buy it. So you've got to be honest at the same time, and just be really clear that you're really keen on the job. You will give absolutely 100% while doing it. Particularly in the early parts of careers, employers don't actually expect the 20 somethings they recruit to still be with them in their 60s, really, particularly if they're talented, because other options might be available to them. as long as you make it absolutely clear that at no point will you give anything less than your best, it will then be on the employer to decide, should the time come, what they want to do if this person moves on. Also, bear in mind that a lot of employers, particularly in public sector and in small businesses, who simply for one reason or other can't pay full private sector market rate, do actually see lots of churn and pride themselves on creating the finished products and then wishing them well when they move on. So those are a set of questions you do need to think about. Employers will, at least tacitly, appreciate that you are likely to be painting from you're likely to have a broader canvas to choose from in terms of occupation, in terms of options. That's not a bad thing. So don't be defensive about it, because part of what will appeal to you is that you're thinking internationally and not locally. Most UK students, most UK workers don't move to places they're not already connected to. So we're actually, UK workers are not actually that particularly mobile. So the mobility of international students is a bonus. It's a, it shows a wide breadth of experience that you're not as likely to get in even the very best UK candidates. So that's a plus point.
Yeah.
Just make it clear that you're not going to go through the motions if you decide you want to move to the US or to Japan or something along those lines.
I'm just conscious of the time, but I think there's one question that we really do need to ask.
Do I give quite long answers?
No, but they're good answers. Yeah, and we want them. Yeah,
they're good. We want to
not
give
a
them.
negative.
Yeah.
It's not a
No,
negative.
I know. This is for the audience. This is just a joke. I've known her for a long time, and she knows perfectly well I will do this.
He knows I'm on my best behaviour. That's why he's doing this.
I am a nightmare for podcast hosts because, you've got an hour. Okay, so that's one answer then. Maybe one sentence.
Yeah, I was going to say, and this is like a double episode for us. The question I think we need to tackle is that with this change from 2 years graduate route visa to 18 months, what do you think the impacts are going to be for both the students and the employers? And, can you give people ideas? Can you help them to see that it's not the end of the world, that loss of 6 months? It's not perfect. We're not saying that, but it's
not what really anybody wants, because if you think employers are pleased about it, then I can assure you they are not. Because what will tend to happen is they'll get their international students, as I've hinted, they'll bring things to the table they simply can't get elsewhere and become very prized employees. And the fact that these visas will not, are now only 18 months rather than 2 years is a proper pain. But employers will still recruit because the international students that they recruit are good, and they know that they're good. So they'll still be there. I think, behind the scenes, what will happen, what is happening, lots of lobbying of the government to reverse that change. So do bear in mind that this may not stick. Don't assume it is a baked in concrete. Oh no, that's the wrong metaphor. Apologies for that. It is a set in concrete status quo. It may and probably will change. What we can't do is predict when and how it will change, because of the nature of these things. Still, 2 years was shorter than everybody wanted. 18 months is shorter than everybody wanted. I think what business will do is what they've learned to do in this case, which is just make do with it. So my advice for international students is don't think too much about it. Don't stress too much about it. Your basic sell, your basic offer remains there and strong, and cross that bridge when you come to it.
Thank you. Well, it's been great speaking to you, Charlie, as always, and we'll have to have you back on. Don't you think, Constantine?
I may be able to answer another question if you have me on for another day.
It's been great. It's been great speaking.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Charlie.
Well, I hope you've got something out of that, and I hope your audience gets something useful out of that, even if it is, oh my God, do not invite him on the podcast.
No, it will be go to Wigan and have a proper pie. That's what they'll get from this.
Go to Wigan, go to Galloways Galloways are the bakery that you want, because Wigan is the sort of place where instead of, high street shops, you have competing bakeries and everybody has view on who does the best pies. It's Galloways pies. Go and get a Galloways pie and your life will be changed. It'll never be the same again. In a good way.
We can get sponsorship from Galloways.
We might drop them an email after that. Yeah, good one.
They publicise our podcast. We mention you.
Yeah.
This is the Careers podcast as not yet sponsored by Galloways Pies.
I like the yet.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thanks, Constantina. Thanks, Shiv. I hope you've got something out of that. And I'll hopefully talk to you later.
Indeed. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.